I'm your host, as always, Peggy Anne Salz, mobile analyst, tech consultant, Senior Forbes writer, and founder of Mobile Groove. And every 2 weeks, we bring you tips and advice from marketers at major consumer brands who share how they achieve their retention and engagement goals. Their success and this show is powered by CleverTap, headquartered in Mountain View, California, with offices in Mumbai, Singapore, and Dubai. CleverTap is a modern integrated retention cloud that empowers digital consumer brands to increase retention and lifetime value. And we're talking about that value today because the digital divide was about value. It was in existence long before the pandemic, but we really felt the problem of not having proper access to valuable broadband at home, at school, and on the go when, of course, everything went digital all at once. Now, thankfully, we've seen an increase in federal funding to boost cellular coverage and connectivity, but network build-out should also involve the communities and areas it impacts most. Everyone has a role to play. And my guest today is the director of marketing at a company that enhances and harnesses app users to power a new approach. He worked for a string of Fortune 500 companies, including Las Vegas Sands Corp, and as well as global brands from Emeril's Restaurants to Pinnacle Entertainment, as well as several tech startups. He's a perfect fit to talk about crowdsourcing and what it achieves. I want to welcome my guest, Joshua Shorter. Joshua, great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Peggy. I certainly appreciate you welcoming me to the show, and real honored to be here today.
Well, Josh, it's great to have you. And I said at the top, it's about this one app that we'll get to. But of course, M2Catalyst produces a variety of compelling apps. Tell us a little bit about your app portfolio to start.
Yeah, so we do have, as you mentioned, a variety of apps. We have, one of our apps, which has been around a lot longer than some of the others. You may have heard of it. One of them is called Network Cell Info, and it is an app that is basically used to help consumers find, where they get a good cellular signal, to see how strong their Wi-Fi signal is, to see which tower they're connected to. And this really helps to bring relevant stats right into the palm of their hand so that they can see, what their signal strength is like over time. We, give them a little bit of a dashboard within the app to, see all that in a snapshot, and it just helps to provide a better consumer experience. We at M2Catalyst are really centered on, being a, voice for our consumers to the telecom industry to say, here's where consumers get great signals. Here's where consumers get, signals that are not good signals or no signal at all. And so this app has been, really critical in helping us to deliver value to consumers worldwide. Another one of our apps, kind of in the same vein as Network Cell Info, but slightly different, is one of our newest apps called Mobile Signal Finder. And it is, another app that is designed to help with the, mobile experience of the consumer. And the way that it's different from the Network Cell Info app is that Mobile Signal Finder is actually powered by crowdsourced data. So similar to how Waze leverages, crowdsourced data to, give real-time insights into what's happening, with traffic so that, those that are on the road can have the best driving experience. Mobile Signal Finder does the same thing, but with mobile, the mobile experience of consumers. So, seeing crowdsourced data on, where other users worldwide are getting good signals, where they're getting bad signals, you can see this on a crowdsourced map, and it just helps you to quickly find where you might have the best mobile experience and also see where you might have the worst mobile experience, and hopefully you can avoid it. The other app that we have is called Phases of the Moon. It's kind of a special interest app for all those moon lovers out there, but it's a great app to be able to, see, again, a 3D simulation of the moon. You can also, be alerted when full moons or new moons are happening. It basically takes you through all the various phases of the moon. You can see when those will be. You can also, see, set up your widget so that if you wanted to get a quick snapshot of that on your mobile device's home screen, you have all the, relevant moon information that you need right there. There's also reminders for, Farmer's Almanac, and it's a very expansive, app that's kind of centered around the moon. We also push a lot of moon related articles, things from NASA, science-based, things as well to our users that provide them value. And that's been one of the most, I want to say sticky apps that we've had so far. And we also have our battery widgets, which just those simply help our users to get an understanding of, what's happening with their battery, how much of their battery is being used by, X, Y, or Z, how much charge they have left, and just giving them some very important battery stats to help them, optimize how they use their battery.
Well, it's a lot about the customer experience here. And I want to keep on the crowdsourcing app, the one that benefits us. We have the wisdom of the crowd saying, here's where the signal is good, here's where it's not. But it's also, hey, mobile operators, my signal isn't great here, the coverage isn't great here. So I'm in a node. I'm a node in a sense, in a network for good. As you said, ways for signal strength. How do you make that initial connection? It's an interesting value proposition, but it's not like download this app because of this. It can't be sort of upfront. It's a complex value proposition for your users. How do you make that connection?
It is, and a lot of that starts with, ASO, which is the App Store optimization, and really just making sure that what consumers see on the front end when they come to the Play Store is exactly, what they're looking for. So users who are searching for better signals, or where can they find a great signal, or, anyone who is trying to do any troubleshooting around, their mobile experiences, they punch in various keywords related to this. That's been, kind of the sweet spot for us, is really trying to maximize, how we appear in the app stores. That has been, helpful to using specific tools for ASO to load up on all the right keywords that we need to load up on, so that, when, the Google algorithms are being, are in motion, basically, again, the users that are looking for those types of apps can find us.
Okay, so lot in ASO. What's the monetization model here, by the way, Joshua, for the
Yeah,
apps that you offer?
yeah. So it really varies per. So, for example, Network Cell Info Lite is a light version of, Network Cell Info,
Premium.
which is,
Hmm.
the more premium version. And so, in the sense that our pro version might be used by more professionals like RF engineers and those who are, doing, troubleshooting with networks to make sure that, buildings are getting great signals, so on and so forth. But your Network Cell Info Lite might be something that's a little bit more consumer friendly and a little bit more easy to get into and understand how to use. Now, your general consumer may not, want to use all the features that someone like an RF engineer would want to use, and so they would stick to, the light version. But for those who do want a more robust app with, features that are available to help them, troubleshoot, any network issues they might encounter, cellular or Wi-Fi signals, then they would upgrade to the Pro version, and that the cost for the Pro version is, very minimal, but again, it provides them a lot more valuable.
The freemium versions, that's going to be ad supported, so the Phases of the Moon or the light version.
Correct. For users who prefer to not have ads, we also have an upgraded version where, you know, we make it ad free for them.
So very much a useful app. You're in sort of I'd say utility, although there's a little bit of a different, maybe you're a different vertical altogether, Joshua, because it's utility, but there's also this model of being very professional at the same time and paid to get ad free. Now, like many app categories, I'd imagine you saw an influx of downloads, because we were doing a lot on our phones. And now maybe it's just a little bit harder. What have you seen? What have you done to make certain you're getting value for money in your acquisition?
Yeah, one thing that we've really, done is, again, load up when it comes to App Store optimization. Load up on keywords and making sure that we're always putting our best foot forth. And because we're competing against, other apps in the same category, which app is going to be featured. And the algorithms take several things into factor, when it comes to, which apps are featured within a specific category. And app rating is something that helps. If your app regularly gets high ratings, you're more likely to be featured. If Google sees that, you create engagement for your users, and your users are coming into your app on a regular basis, sometimes that is a signal to the algorithm to say, this is a good performing app. We want to push this out and feature it amongst various countries in this category. And we've seen that over the past 6 months, especially, with an app like Phases of the Moon. We've been, featured in as many as the 20 different countries at one time, just because, again, we have, high ratings, low crash rates, high engagement. We're also doing things like, pushing articles that have a higher SEO ranking within the category to our users, creating those backlinks, and having that attribution come back to our app. And so those are things that, we found very helpful. And, over actually between January and March, we had about 700,000 plus organic downloads from the Google Play Store just on Phases of the Moon alone. And it was a big win for us because, to acquire that number of users, through a paid source, maybe through Google Ads or other app ads that you're doing, you can be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so to have landed another, 700,000, downloads organically, and then out of those generate, almost 200,000 more monthly active users was a big win for us. And so, but that all comes back to, how you optimize your listing, in the Play Store, how engaged your users are they rating your app highly, so on and so forth.
So we're at the top of the funnel. I'm going to stay there for a little bit of mid funnel before we get to retention and other topics deeper in the funnel. But cross promotion, you've got great apps. You have a fun one like Phases of the Moon, which is, awesome. I want one when you get on iOS, you let me know. Um, but what do you do to make it possible to get more out of cross promotion? Do you cross promote? Do you have any interesting approaches, I guess, is really the question, because you obviously have some very smart approaches to ASO. 700,000 organics is not an easy feat. You've done that. Cross promotion, what role does that play?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to leverage the size of our user bases to the best of our ability when it comes to acquiring new users at no cost or very low cost. So, for example, Network Cell Info has, 1.28 million installs. Our paid version has, 75,000 installs. And, at the same time, we have a newer app like Mobile Signal Finder, which is kind of the little brother app to, Network Cell Info, that we want to get more users on without having to spend an arm and a leg in advertising through Google Ads. And so we do cross promote, setting up, push notification campaigns, in-app messaging campaigns through CleverTap, to promote the Mobile Signal Finder app within Network Cell Info, because the audience is related, in the sense that both apps are helping users to achieve a greater mobile experience. It's kind of a natural, flow and progression from, one app to the other. Not that they're dropping in Network Cell Info when they get Mobile Signal Finder, but they're picking up Mobile Signal Finder in addition to having Network Cell Info and getting some other elements of value that maybe they aren't getting from Network Cell Info. And so we've done that to help, increase our user base for Mobile Signal Finder. And, over the last, 180 days or 6 months, we've actually doubled our monthly active users in Mobile Signal Finder through doing things like, engaging with push notification campaigns, doing the cross promotion, so on and so forth, without having to spend money on advertisement.
Double without the spend. That is an achievement. You talked about, creating a bigger user base. But again, another point is to make certain that user base uses your app frequently. How do you drive more frequent interaction, more frequent use? People talk about hooking us, hook from near Ayal on habits, making you an integral part of my routine. Certainly notifications help. What's your approach?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Those notifications do help. But one thing that I will also say that in addition to those notifications is really just making sure that in the, initial stages of onboarding a new user into your app, that you have the right type of sequences, set up for engagement, to hit the user with the right message at the right time. And so, in addition to some of the standalone campaigns that we might do to tout a feature or say, here's something that you can, do with the app and make them aware of something that they maybe weren't aware of that they could do with the app. For our new users, we, of course, as soon as they launch the app for the first time, they are, hit with, a series of push notifications and or in-app messages. And, the first day, we're sending a nice welcome message to the user to welcome them into the app, of course, just to get them in there, get them familiar with it. The more time they spend in the app, the better, because that's, the more data that we're able to collect and then let decision makers in the telecom space know, hey, here's where users are getting great signals, bad signals, so on and so forth, so that they can put new towers in places. But that initial first 7 days to 14 days is critical for empowering the user as much as possible so that they know how to navigate the app, know where to find the critical features that are going to create that value for them. And so we really load up with our initial onboarding experience, through some of Clever Tap's, automated user journeys. All of our users are not getting the same cookie cutter, message. We really like to try to tailor that experience as much as possible. And so that's helped, but as you mentioned as well, the other, push notifications and in-app messages that we're doing are also driving users in after that initial 7 to 14 day period. They're keeping users coming back on a regular basis. And so we saw an increase, a 43% increase in phases of the moon for our daily active users, just loading up with push notifications, in-app messages, giving them helpful articles about the moon, letting them know when new moons are coming, letting them know about these features that they can set up to automatically be alerted, when things happen with the moon, when a solar eclipse happens, or so on and so forth. And that's been helpful. We've also, increased our monthly active users by 38% for phases of the moon, just through, launching more push notification campaigns. When it comes to mobile signal finder, again, we had a 90% increase in our monthly active users, just because we're hitting them on a much more regular basis. Not doing it too much to where we annoy them and cause them to uninstall, but just enough to where they say, okay, we hear you, we see your notifications coming through, they make sense, they provide value for us, and then they come into the app and are able to develop more of a regular routine of using the app.
That makes a lot of sense and dovetails with the research I'm seeing out there that says, we will volunteer information data if we see a value exchange. And yours is very much around helpful content. I can understand the phases of the moon. I can get content around that. I can get alerts for a lunar eclipse or the like. Or in the case of your, ways for signal strength, I'm doing my part to say, I'm giving you this information because you're going to improve my coverage ultimately. Now, we talked about your portfolio of apps and we talked about their purposes and the app experience. I want to understand more about that approach to get the right message to the right user in the right sequence. Tell me how you segment. Where do you start?
We start by, recency and frequency. That is something that really helps us to dial in and make sure that we are, hitting the right audience with the right message. Those who come a little bit more frequently than others, or in other words, your power users, can be hit, with a different set of messaging than a brand new user. Uh, is hit with, or someone who rarely comes to the app is hit with. And so we try to make sure that, we speak to people based on, what we see and trends regarding their behavior around using the app, how many times that they're opening, the app. For someone who is a power user for maybe a light version of the app, who might be a candidate who's very likely to upgrade to a pro version, we might actually hit them with a message that is related to upgrading to get the pro experience. Whereas, you wouldn't send that same message to someone who either just came into the app or rarely comes into the app. It wouldn't necessarily be relevant to them. And so, right message, right time, right user is what we're all about. And we even try to, you know, dial in and focus on, very granular analytics that allow us to see through CleverTap when is the best time to send, a notification to a user. We don't just want to send it, you know, um, at a time where they might be sleeping. We want to send it at a time where they're most likely using their phone. And so, we can dial in that way as well. But segmentation is very critical to how we, approach engaging our users.
So what I'm hearing is it's based a lot on the user behavior, insights into that. What role does the channel play, the channel that brought them in the first place? Because as you said yourself, you're doing a lot of ASO, you're getting a lot of organic, maybe through channels you hadn't expected. How do you make that match, make that call?
That's a great question, and we're not. I typically have done a lot more with multi-channel management prior to, using some of the apps that I'm currently doing marketing for. But when it comes to the apps that we have, surprisingly, we're not really putting a lot into, social channels. A lot of our acquisition, I would say 90% of it, 95% of it is really coming through, either an organic download from the Google Play Store or an actual Google ad, as opposed to doing an ad on TikTok or doing something on Facebook. And so we would attribute at least 95% of our acquisition to Google. It really just depends on the mobile experience of the person. I think is kind of what drives us the most. Is the person having a terrible mobile experience where they are? If so, that person could be more likely to become a power user because they may need to always be troubleshooting, things with their Wi-Fi or their mobile signal versus someone who may not need to use the app as much because they're not having a problem with their mobile experience.
It's about the power user. It's about that highly engaged user. I'm wondering what that user looks like to you in terms of the events that you're looking at that define them. Because, also now in an identity constrained world is what we're calling it. We're looking a lot at events. We're looking at pre-indicator indicators. Give me an idea of what an engaged user looks like to you, what they have to do, and how you get them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We one of the amazing things about the platform that we use for engagement, CleverTap, is that we can drill down on our analytics with specific events. And one thing that I like to take a look at is how frequently the user is opening the app. That can be an indicator for whether or not someone becomes a power user or whether they, become someone who, is, an inactive user and eventually ends up uninstalling the app. And so when I take a look at our events, I can see that on Network Cell Info Lite, 28% of our users launch the app 5 times or more. 12% of them actually launch the app 10 times or more. When we look at the paid version of our app, which is, it's very interesting because when you deal with paid versions, you deal with, users who are already sold on using it. They're going to be a lot more likely to get more use out of the app if they feel it valuable enough to pay for it. And we see that with our Network Cell Info Pro. 52% of our users launch the app 5 times or more. 32% of them launch the app 10 times or more. And so, um, it's those are the indicators that I look for when it comes to, the signals for who's a power user, who's somebody that is going to not only use the app extensively, but maybe willing to, do a review video for us, or invite someone else to the app, or tell their friends and family about it, or be willing to, if they're on the light version, be willing to upgrade to the pro version. And so, the way that we get there is, through continual engagement, making sure, that we're hitting them at the right time with the right message. And when we take that, approach that's really driven by segmentation, and getting the right message to the right user, we get a better response, in our click-through rates for our push notifications. We even, do things, like just making sure that for a pro user, they've obviously paid to have an ad-free experience. So we don't want to put in-app notifications in front of them that look like ads. We actually use a different format for our pro version than we do for our light version. And we saw a boost in our click-through rates when we started to use in-app messages that did not resemble the ads that they saw in the light version. And so those are some things, a few things that we do to try to get more out of our users and keep them coming into the app and prevent them from, churning or uninstalling.
I want to stay there for a moment because all of this requires testing and iteration. We hear it all the time. Test, test, test. Literally, every conference, every discussion with a marketer. What is your advice? You need to test. And a lot of it is the wording or even the appearance, as you just pointed out yourself. It doesn't look like an ad. It looks like something different. What are some other key learnings you can share around testing and what works?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite words, one of my favorite elements of being a marketer, and having these tools at my disposal, is that it allows me to continually test. A/B testing is so important. You never get to a place where you feel like you have the message that's just going to work every single time. As a marketer, there's always a deeper level. There's always a higher click-through rate. There's always, a higher conversion rate that you can achieve. And so testing helps us to get there. And, we look at, testing things like emoji in the push notification versus no emoji in the push notification. We look at, testing the verbiage, in the description or the detail part of the push notification versus the headline, competing headlines against, one another. We test features. Are people more likely to, go to this tab within the app versus this tab within the app? And so we try to get a 360 view of what our users prefer, and the testing is really what helps us to get to that point to where we can get a clear sense of what's happening, what users prefer, and how to hit them with the best message that's going to generate the highest click-through rate. As I previously mentioned with the, in-app messages, there's several variations of an in-app message you can do. You can do the full cover, you can do, the half interstitial, you can do one that's just like a little, that looks like an ad. It's just a little strip at the bottom or the top of the app. And there's all these various, looks and feels to them. But we used to push our articles using kind of a full interstitial, but then we started to pay attention to our reviews in the Play Store. And, we found that a couple of our users were saying that it maybe felt a little bit too much like an ad. And so what we did is that whenever we pushed helpful articles related to 5G, on network cell info or things about mobile experience, we actually put them into a smaller format and just said, hey, here's our network cell info recommended read. They tap on a little button and then they go read the article. And when we switched to that smaller format, our click-through rate for those that were seeing the in-app message went from about 24% up to 40 to 45% for each article. And so, that really helped us to one, see the importance of, testing, and just never getting to a place where you feel like, all right, we'll only try one thing and just stick to that. You always have to test as a marketer. You really have to see it as kind of a sandbox where you're always playing with these different combinations and just seeing what works best. We've landed on winning combinations, over and over again through testing, and that's something that I'll always, stick to as a marketer. It's worked very well for us.
And the great thing about testing, of course, Joshua, is it's working even when it's not working, because even if you see what fails, that tells you what resonates with your audience. So it's like either way, you're getting value out of it. And you pointed it out yourself, something as small as the size of the article that you're offering, rather than a full or a half interstitial, just a little box or something. Here's a great read. What an improvement, what a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we want to continue to do that. There may be something that's even better than this, the one that got us up to 40 to 45%. We'll just have to keep testing to see, if we can get there. But the beauty of the A/B test is that if you're using a tool like CleverTap, it will always pick the winner and push the winner to the rest of the, you know, users who will receive it. For example, you can, set a threshold and say, after 10% of this is sent out, maybe you've got 100,000 people you're sending it out to. Once it reaches 10,000 people, it'll say, here's the winner. And based on which one the winner is, it'll push the winner out to the remaining 90,000 people. And so it's just always a way of making sure you're getting the highest click-through rate. We love it.
And it's also very, not just very relevant, but in a way, it's also very dynamic because, as you said yourself, you're doing this testing and you're saying, this is the winner, this is the one to send out to everyone else. What's the opportunity for marketers in harnessing real-time context? Why is that so important?
Reaching a user at the right time is half the battle. We've seen, in our Play Store, reviews where sometimes, a user might have left a slightly negative review and they said, hey, I received my notification while I was sleeping and it woke me up. And we obviously don't want that to happen because that's something that would annoy or irritate a user to the point where they might want to uninstall an app. And so what we looked at was, okay, how can we reconfigure our campaigns so that they trigger at the most optimal time for the user? Meaning, they'll hit the user's device at the time where the user is most likely on their device. And that aspect of real-time marketing has really helped to boost our conversion rates and our click-through rates on our push notification, campaigns. We might see, for just one of our generic, campaigns that might tout a certain feature and say, if it's network cell info, say, hey, here's how you can actually see which tower you're connected to. We might, if we don't have the right configuration when it comes to when that's delivered at the right time, we might only see a 2.5% click-through rate. Whereas if we have it set up to where it's going to deliver when the user is most likely on their device, we might see a 4.5% click-through rate. And so, real-time marketing is a big thing, and just hitting customers and users at the right time is very critical to delivering the best experience.
And quickly back to you to wrap up here, Joshua. I mean, you are a marketer. You've been at several companies, tech startups, we said at the start. You're laser focused at, quote, helping global brands achieve growth through marketing engagement, lead generation, customer acquisition, channel optimization, multi-channel campaign management, content creation, and more. You are into all aspects of marketing. What's the one approach or rule of thumb you can leave us with that has brought you the biggest uplift in your career?
I think that if I could, say that it's one thing that has really helped the most is, and we've already touched on this quite a bit, but it is that element of testing. As a marketer, you always have to be testing. Whether you're sending out an email, it's important to test your messaging, test your headlines, test your, your body texture, test your images. If you're building a landing page, test the creative, the image positioning, what type of hero image you might have at the top of the landing page, where your button is, how many you have, so on and so forth. I would say that that's probably helped the most because it helps you to see what doesn't work, but it quickly helps you to see what does work. And then when you see what does work, you can get laser focused on what works and then really start driving, more engagement, really start driving what you need to drive in order to retain the users. Because, when it comes to, app retention, a 10% increase in user retention can, increase the value of your business by more than, 30%. And so, help testing really helps you to get there, to see, what is most likely to retain our users, what's most likely to push them away. And so I'd say that's probably, my the bread and butter really of being a marketer, and just seeing some great results, with what we've seen with our ad marketing. So
Well, that is an excellent point to make because it's best practice, it's proven in your case, and therefore very valuable. I want to thank you for sharing everything, Joshua, not just how you do testing to get great results, but ASO, your approach to push notifications, everything along the line really left us with a very actionable blueprint for marketing. Thank you so much.
you're certainly welcome, and thank you for having me.
Just as a last thought, Joshua, come to think of it, why not? We've had a great time. I'm sure that others could learn from it as well. What is the best way for them to stay in touch?
Absolutely. If you want to stay in touch, you can, certainly, visit us on the web, www.m2catalyst.com. But also, if you wanted to reach out to me on LinkedIn, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn. That's Joshua Shorter, Director of Marketing for M2 Catalyst. Always happy to connect with other marketers and, create valuable relationships as well. So, yeah, those are some ways that you can connect if you'd like to connect.
And of course, Joshua has shared his journey and to help marketers and organizations on their journey to drive customer connection and results for their businesses. And if you want to keep up with me throughout the week, then you can email me, Peggy at Mobile Groove. That's where you will also find my portfolio of content marketing and app marketing services. So until next time, remember, every minute is mobile, so make every minute count. Keep well, stay safe, and we will see you soon.